Welcome again to my channel. I'm Shadow, probably this is your first time with me, so I wasn't quite sure about my channel content, what to talk about, what interests me to give it to you the way I want to receive it and hear it. I always loved those creepy, mysterious stories, so since this is how it is, I settled for that, so I can enjoy the journey while making it and so you can enjoy it yourselves. So from now on, I'm going to talk about mysterious things in the shadows, like the name represents. And of course, if you have any interesting stories want me to talk about, don't be shy, I'll happily do it for you. And with no further ado, let's get started. Los Angeles, January 1947. The war had ended, but the nightmares hadn't. Men came home missing pieces, arms, legs, souls, and the city tried to drown the silence in martinis, swing music, and the flash of studio lights. Yet something feral was loose in the boulevards after dark. Something that watched beautiful girls with hungry for fame and saw only meat. And in the middle of that fever dream walked a 22-year-old from Massachusetts who looked like every man's fantasy and no one's future. Jet black hair. Skin so pale it looked lit from the inside. Eyes the color of a summer ocean you'll never swim in. She wore black like mourning for a life she hadn't lived yet. She smiled like she knew exactly how this story ends. Her name was Elizabeth Short. The newspapers would rename her the Black Dahlia. But to the man who killed her, she was simply perfect. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924, in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Boston, the third of 5 daughters. Her father, Cleo Short, built miniature golf courses, the kind that popped up everywhere during the late 20s craze. He made decent money until Black Tuesday wiped him out. October 31st, 1930. Cleo parked his car on the Charleston Bridge over the Mystic River, left his coat folded neatly on the seat with a suicide note inside, and disappeared. The family was ruined. Phoebe Short girls grew up wearing hand-me-downs and eating oatmeal for dinner, while their mother Phoebe scrubbed other people's floors. Then, in 1935, Cleo sent a letter from California. He was alive. He was sorry. He had started over. Phoebe told him never to contact them again. Beth never forgave him either. She kept his abandonment like a splinter under the skin. She was always sickly. Asthma so bad she spent winters in Miami Beach because the warm air let her breathe. She waited tables at the Pier 5 restaurant, flirted with Navy boys on leave, collected engagement rings like souvenirs. One sailor called her Beth, and it stuck. She hated Betty, said it sounded like a farm girl. She wanted to sound like a movie star. In 1943, she moved to Vallejo, California to be near Camp Cook, where soldiers shipped out for the Pacific. She worked at the Post Exchange, dated officers, was voted cutest girl on base. 1944. She fell hard for Major Matthew Michael Gordon Jr., a decorated Flying Tigers pilot. They planned to marry when he came home. August 14, 1945, his plane exploded over India, 2 weeks after Hiroshima. Beth wore black for a year straight. After that, something in her cracked. She started moving faster, chasing sunlight and strangers, writing letters to her mother that always said the same thing. I'm doing great. I'm going to be in pictures soon. Send money. She bounced between Medford, Chicago, Miami, Long Beach, San Diego, Hollywood. She never held a job longer than a few months. She never had a real acting role. She just drifted. And everywhere she went, men remembered the girl in the black dress with the gardenia in her hair, who looked like she was waiting to happen. January 1st to 7th, 1947, San Diego. Beth is living hand-to-mouth, sleeping on couches. She meets Dorothy French, a waitress at the Aztec Theater, who takes pity on her. Beth moves into the French family home in Pacific Manor. She tells them her boyfriend beat her and threw her out. They believe her. She spends New Year's Eve crying in the bathroom. January 8th, 1947, evening. Beth meets Robert Red Manley at the Aztec Theater. Red is 25, married, a traveling band instrument salesman with red hair and a guilty conscience. They go dancing. She tells him she can't have fun, she has female problems. He believes her. They spend the night in a motel, fully clothed, just talking until dawn. January 9th, 1947, morning to night. Red drives Beth the 120 miles north to Los Angeles in his black 1941 Studebaker. They stop at roadside diners, check into motels as man and wife, but again, nothing physical. Red later swore on a stack of Bibles. We just held hands and talked about our lives. At 6, she seemed sad, like she was running from something. 6:30 p.m. Red drops her at the Biltmore Hotel, downtown LA. She is wearing black tailored suit, sheer white blouse, high black heels, beige coat, fresh flowers in her jet black hair. She tells Red she is meeting her sister Virginia from Boston. Virginia was not in California. Virginia had not spoken to Beth in years. Hotel staff remember her making several phone calls from the lobby, looking nervous, pacing. 10:15 p.m. Night clerk sees her leave alone through the Olive Street exit, heading south towards 6th Street. Then she vanishes. 6 days pass. Monday, January 15th, 1947, 10:07 a.m. Leimert Park, South Los Angeles. Betty Berzinger is pushing her 3-year-old daughter and in a stroller along South Norton Avenue, between 39th Drive and Coliseum Street. The area is half-developed, empty weed-choked lots, new stucco houses, the American dream still under construction. Betty sees something pale lying in the grass, about 10 feet from the sidewalk. At first she thinks it's a department store mannequin that fell off a truck. The top half is facing up, arms bent gracefully above the head. The bottom half is turned the other way, legs spread obscenely wide. Then she notices the red. The mouth has been slashed from ear to ear. The body has been cut in half with surgical precision. There is no blood on the ground. Betty runs screaming to the nearest house and calls the police. Within minutes the lot is swarming. Reporters arrive before the coroner. Someone from the Examiner actually moves the body to get a better photograph. The killer had left her posed exactly like Man Ray's 1934 Surrealist photograph, Le Minotaur. Arms at right angles, legs spread, body offered up like a sacrifice. He wanted the world to see his masterpiece. Warning, this part is brutal. Skip if you need to. Elizabeth Short was tortured for at least 36 to 48 hours before death. Cause of death: hemorrhage from lacerations to the face and shock from blows to the head. She was alive when the smile was cut. She was alive when chunks of flesh were excised from her thighs and breasts in perfect rectangles. She was alive when a cigarette was ground out on her skin multiple times. She was alive when he inserted objects into her body. After death, drained of blood, possibly hung upside down in a shower or bathtub. Washed clean with gasoline, skin was snow white. Bisected at the waist with a single perfect cut through vertebrae, organs, everything, a technique called hemicorporectomy, taught only to a handful of surgeons. Intestines removed, washed, tucked neatly under buttocks. One breast completely excised. And others I refrained to mention them. The posing matched Man Ray's photograph exactly. The body was placed 1 foot from the sidewalk, so the first school bus of children would see it. This was not a crime of passion. This was performance art by a sadist with medical training and a serious complex. On January 21st, 1947, just 6 days after the body was discovered, a janitor working the night shift at the Examiner's offices in downtown LA picked up an anonymous phone call. The caller, a man with a calm, possibly disguised voice, said something like, "Tell the police the Black Dahlia Avenger will surrender today." The janitor scribbled it down on a scrap of paper as a message and left it for the editors to find in the morning. He never shows. On January 24th, a plain brown paper package arrives at the offices of the Los Angeles Examiner, a tabloid-style newspaper that was eating up the story for headlines. It's postmarked from downtown Los Angeles. No return address, of course. The mailroom clerk opens it casually. Inside, no bomb, just personal documents and photos belonging to Elizabeth Short. Everything had been soaked in gasoline, like lighter fluid, to destroy any fingerprints or DNA traces. The smell was so strong it made the whole room reek. Handwritten note in cut-out letters. Here is Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow. January 26th. Postcards, same pasted letters. Here it is. Turning in Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m. Had my fun at police. Black Dahlia Avenger. January 27th. Phone call to the Examiner. Male, cultured voice, slight accent. You think you're smart, but the Black Dahlia Avenger is always 1 step ahead. Wait till he strikes again. More calls followed. He mocked the police. He knew details only the killer could know. Then, February 8th, 1947, Jean French is stomped to death in West LA. On her body, in her own lipstick. Fuck you, Beatty. And underneath, Tex. The calls stopped. The investigation was doomed from minute 1. Reporters trampled the crime scene. The Examiner offered $10,000 reward and published every rumor. Over 60 people confessed. One man said he drank her blood and kept her uterus in a jar. All were cranks. Suspects paraded through. Red Manley, past 2 lie detectors, eliminated. Mark Hansen, nightclub owner. Beth stayed at his house, address book connection. Dr. Walter Bailey, surgeon, office near dump site, dying of brain disease, allegedly confessed on deathbed. Leslie Dillon, bellhop/pimp who knew unpublished details, LAPD let him walk. And more. But one name kept surfacing and being buried. 5121 Franklin Avenue, Los Feliz. The John Soden house, designed by Lloyd Wright to resemble a Mayan temple. No windows on the street side. A central courtyard open to the sky. A basement with drains in the floor. Dr. George Hill Hodel moved in 1945. Genius IQ, rumored 186 plus. Ran the LA County VD clinic, saw 200 women a week. Spoke 9 languages. Through orgies attended by Man Ray, John Huston, Fred Sexton, who cast the Maltese Falcon statue. Owned original Man Ray photographs, including Le Minotaur. Taught the hemicorporectomy cut to medical students. Knew how to drain blood without spilling a drop. Sound familiar? 1949. Accused of molesting his 14-year-old daughter Tamar in the Soden house. Tamar testified he made her have sex with him and his friends while they took photographs. He was acquitted. Witnesses changed stories. Tamar was called a pathological liar. March 1950. LAPD plants 18 hidden microphones in the Soden house walls. They listen for 6 weeks. Listen to this. 2 weeks later, George Hodel fled the country. He lived in the Philippines until 1999, still practicing medicine, still laughing. He died never charged. Steve Hodel was 10 when Elizabeth Short was murdered. He grew up in that house. He remembers the locked rooms, the screams, the parties where children were sent to bed early. After George died in 1999, Steve, now an 84-year LAPD homicide detective, went through his father's belongings. He found a small leather photo album. 2 pictures inside. A dark-haired woman with a rose in her mouth, posed exactly like Man Ray's the Minotaur. Steve ran facial recognition in 2003. Match probability, 95 to 98% Elizabeth Short. Then the evidence avalanche began. Handwriting match on Avenger letters. Cadaver dogs hit strongly in Soden basement, 2013. Soil samples from basement match body. Concrete bags from Soden construction match those near crime scene. George's secretary Ruth Spalding died of overdose in 1945, George suspected. George linked to at least 10 other 1940s lone woman murders, including Jean French, Georgette Bauerdorf, and possibly the 1930s Cleveland torso murders. Former Deputy DA Steve K. reviewed everything in the 2010. If George Hodel were alive today, I would charge him with this murder. No question. Steve Hodel's books have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. The Soden house is now a tourist attraction. People still hear screams at 3 a.m. October 21st, 2025, Steve Hodel releases Black Dahlia Avenger. Case closed, the definitive edition. 672 pages. 50 pages of brand new evidence including AI-enhanced photo analysis, now 99.7% match. Declassified LAPD files showing high-ranking brass, who were George's patients, buried the wiretap evidence. Proof George knew Elizabeth Short personally. She was a patient at his VD clinic. Linkage to the 1946 Chicago lipstick killer, William Aaron's case. Same surgical style. Same week, Eli Frankel's sisters in death drops, claiming a different killer entirely. A traveling salesman who knew both Elizabeth and Kansas City heiress Layla Walsh, murdered 1941. 2 massive books. 2 different solutions. 0 official closure. LAPD still lists the case as unsolved. Elizabeth Short is buried in Mountain View Cemetery, Oakland, California. The stone is simple. Daughter, Elizabeth Short, 1924 to 1947. Every January 15th, someone leaves black dahlias on the grave. No card. No name. Some say it's Steve Hodel. Some say it's the killer's ghost still taunting. Others say it's just Los Angeles remembering the girl it devoured. Because that's the real horror. Elizabeth Short came to Hollywood to become immortal. She never got a single speaking role. But the man who killed her made sure the whole world would never forget her face. And somewhere, in the dark basement of a Mayan temple house on Franklin Avenue, the water is still running, and a calm voice is still saying, "They'll never prove it, And that was all for our story for today. Hope you enjoy it. Show us your support, and let's see you the next time.